Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alan Hill, and I am the Mangrove and Blue Carbon Ecosystems Fellow at ELTI, or the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative. ELTI is an initiative of the Yale School of the Environment focused on supporting people to achieve a sustainable future. I am joined today by my colleagues, Jillian Bloomfield, LT's Associate Director of Online Programs, Abby York, LT's Program Administrator, and Dr. David Nadell, LT's Global Strategy Advisor. We are extremely excited to welcome you all today for our webinar on mangroves for people and climate. For today's agenda, the webinar will include a 5-minute introduction, followed by a 30-minute case study presentation by our speaker. Next, we will have a 20-minute moderated Q&A with our speaker, and then finally our closing. Now, the content of this webinar and much more will be featured in our newest course, the Mangrove Ecology, Blue Carbon, and Restoration course. And this will run from June 1 to July 5, with an optional field component taking place in South Sulawesi in Indonesia, where our speaker is working at from July 19 to 25. Hosted by ELTI and Yayasan Hutan Biru, or Blue Forests, this blended online and field course was developed to equip professionals from government, civil society, academia, and the private sector with knowledge about the ecology and social foundations of mangrove ecosystems and practical skills to design, implement, and monitor restoration projects in their own context, as well as an understanding of blue carbon and blue carbon project development. And the course will feature over 5 modules: Introduction to Mangroves, Mangrove Ecology and Blue Carbon, Human Dimensions and Livelihoods, Mangrove Restoration and Management, and Technologies and Approaches to Monitoring. Our course will feature over 20 plus amazing global mangrove experts from diverse sectors. Our online course will feature recorded content. This includes pre-recorded lectures and case studies with over 90 to 120-minute content weekly. We will also have a very lively weekly Zoom sessions where peers can exchange thoughts and insights and ask questions to experts and discuss the courses. And there will be weekly reflections as well as pre and post course quizzes and an optional personal project. For today's webinar, we are featuring our Blue Forests-ELTI Indonesia Program Coordinator, Lely Puspitasari. Lely will present a case study from South Sulawesi that highlights the transformation from degraded to restored landscapes and demonstrates how mangrove rehabilitation strengthens both ecosystem and community resilience. Based at Blue Forests Foundation in Indonesia, Lely brings a wider range of experiences working with the private sector and local communities to promote sustainable forest management. Lely is a forester by training with specializations in sustainable forest management, silviculture, and invasive species. Prior to joining ELTI, she worked for Blue Forest Foundation, managing mangrove projects in West Kalimantan. She is a Forest Stewardship Council, or FSC, lead auditor and has been involved in an array of forest management audits in the Asia-Pacific region, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Laos, and Papua New Guinea. She has also served as a quality panel member for the High Conservation Value, or HCV network, in reviewing HCV assessment reports for palm oil and forestry plantations in Indonesia and Malaysia. And Lely holds a bachelor's in forestry from Gajah Mada University and a master's in forestry from the Northern Arizona University. Again, following Lely's presentation, we'll move on to a Q&A portion where Lely will be able to answer questions brought up by our amazing webinar participants. So please place your questions into the Q&A feature at any point during the session. As a reminder, this session is being recorded and will be sent out by email in the next few days, as well as posted to ELTI's YouTube channel. In order to have subtitles and prepare for variability in internet connectivity, our speaker has kindly pre-recorded her talk to be broadcasted during the session. So while our team gets the video up, Lely, would you like to activate your microphone and camera to say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. Happy to share our experience from Indonesia.
Thank you so much, Lely. And without further ado, let us start the webinar presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Lely Puspitasari. I'm currently serve as LT Indonesia Program Coordinator. I'm hosted with Blue Forest. It's a foundations in Indonesia, and with Blue Forest program, we focus on capacity buildings and mangrove restorations, and also community-based coastal management. And today I will be sharing a case study titled on From Degradations to Resilience, a case study of mangrove rehabilitations. So this case study is from our program in Indonesia, and this presentation will highlight on how degraded mangrove ecosystem in Indonesia, which often converted into aquaculture ponds or other industry, can be restored into a functioning and resilient mangrove landscape. And I will walk you through the challenges about the mangrove rehabilitations and the approach that we're using, and particularly on ecological mangrove rehabilitations. And Blue Forest has been working in Indonesia since the 2000s. It was originally named Yayasan Akar Rumput Laut, but then changed to Mangrove Action Projects. And then in 2011, it changed to Blue Forest or Yayasan Hutan Biru. And so a little bit of information about Blue Forest sites in 2025. We have at least 11 program across Indonesia, mainly in the coastal areas. And Blue Forest aims to increase the critical watershed systems and socio-economical and also ecological resilience across the from the mountain to the seas. This is like the Blue Forest visions, and also Blue Forest working closely with the coastal community. And besides mangrove rehabilitations, we also focus on community livelihood as well. We have several achievement throughout the year. We restored more than 2,000 hectares of mangrove using ecological mangrove rehabilitations, and we also works with a lot of local community, and also stakeholders in the landscape. And we also has some programs that are working with the MPA or marine protected areas across Indonesia. Indonesia is one of the largest mangrove ecosystem in the world, and um, based on the latest data, Indonesia has around like 3.4 million hectares of mangrove, and this is a very significant portions globally. And in fact, Indonesia contributes almost 22% of the world's total mangrove areas, and it making it a very like a global hotspot for mangrove biodiversity and also mangrove conservations. And beyond the area, Indonesia also plays a very critical roles in climate regulations, and because of the vast mangrove ecosystem, uh, as a country, we store about 17% of the world's blue carbon stocks, and it's highlighting the importance of mangrove in carbon sequestrations and also climate mitigations. Even though Indonesia has a very important ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem, it's under a very significant pressure because yeah, like today, around 40% of the mangrove forest has been converted into fish ponds or aquaculture, and this transformation has occurred like across many regions in Indonesia, particularly in Sulawesi Island, Kalimantan Island, East Kalimantan, West Kalimantan, and also some part of Sumatra and eastern part of Indonesia, as well as in Java. And uh, the aquaculture expansions has been started since like 1970s, and right now hundreds of thousands hectares of mangrove have been converted to fish ponds. Yeah, like while fish ponds provide economic benefits, the conversions often leads it to like a long-term ecological impacts and ecological degradations, including the loss of coastal protections, declining on the fishery productivity. And as you see in the picture here, um, the productivity of aquaculture ponds only lasts probably 5 to 7 years maximum. So after 5 to 7 years, the all the natural nutrients from mangrove has depleted, and then the aquaculture farmers, they need to add a lot of chemical fertilizers or feeds to the fish, and it makes the productivity of the aquaculture decline, and also the ecological impact is pretty severe to the ecosystem. We have pretty big abandoned ponds in Indonesia because the productivity declines, and um, the community left the aquaculture practices because it's no longer productive. So we lost both the mangrove and also the aquaculture ponds as well. So in several cases where we have to implement mangrove rehabilitations, in a lot of cases we have um, unproductive ponds as uh, the area that we need to be restored. In Blue Forest, as I mentioned before, we are using the approach of ecological mangrove rehabilitations, or we call it EMR. So to restore the degraded mangrove ecosystems. So typically, in not only in Indonesia but globally, uh, when restoring the mangrove, people use the conventional mangrove planting. So often it's just a direct planting using seedlings or propagules, and mainly people use Rhizopora species, as you see in the picture, because it's easy uh, to get the propagules. It's easy to just plant. Usually, the stakeholders, they only focus on the numbers of seedling planted. So usually, people just focus on how how many seedling were planted, but not really, like the what's how many seedling there survive or able to be planted in the areas. And also, because as I mentioned, there is a very minimal site assessment. Usually, the planting often failed because, for example, uh, uh, the planting is implemented in a mudflat area or in an area that are not suitable for the mangrove to grow. And this is also one of the challenge in a conventional mangrove planting. Yeah, so why conventional planting has a very low success? The first one is most of the time they ignore hydrology. So that's in a mangrove ecosystem, hydrology is the key aspect before rehabilitations, before planting anything. So mangrove often fail if the tidal flow is not naturally, like occur in the area. For example, people planted in a flooded area, like all year round flooded, and it's the mangrove won't survive in that kind of conditions. So the hydrology is the key important part in the mangrove rehabilitations. And yeah, the next one is probably wrong species in a wrong place. As I mentioned before, usually people use Rhizopora as the main uh, seedling that they planted, and um, the natural zonations of mangroves is not only just Rhizopora. The mangrove have a very big variety of species, and technically you want to have like a natural uh, species disturbances in your rehabilitation area, and also very high mortality rates. This is usually seedling die from the wave exposure, for example. And the sediments instability and also the salinity stress it can make the survival rates be very low, like less than 20 to 30% in many cases. And also, with the mangrove planting, it creates artificial ecosystem. So mainly because it's only one species that was planted, it's a monoculture. It reduced the biodiversity, and it does not really restore fully the biodiversity. So this is what usually happen in a conventional mangrove planting. And lastly is usually people focus on the short-term success. So as I mentioned before, focus on the number of seedling planted rather than how many hectare is the ecosystem is recovered. Mangrove is a terrestrial vegetations, so it needs tidal, and also we have to understand that the hydrology is a very important in for mangroves. And so this terrestrial vegetations evolve or adapt with the coastal areas affected by tides. So when we try to plant the mangrove, we also need to mimic the natural conditions of the ecosystem. This is one of the fun facts as well. So these vegetations or mangroves requires a longer dry period actually. So if you planted the seedling like in a picture in the left-hand side, where the high tide is very high, they probably won't survive for a year after it was planted. And as you see here in the picture on the right, this is what we call mudflat area. So generally, mangrove doesn't grow in the mudflat area. So the mangrove ecosystems occur in the yellow line here, and rehabilitations needs to be implemented within the yellow line here. But usually, uh, land tenure issues, conflicts, and threats to the community occur in this area, and that's why many rehabilitations happens in the mudflat area in the red line here. And as mudflat is not suitable for mangroves, that's why usually the rehabilitation in the mudflat area is often unsuccessful. And yeah, that's why we're using an approach called EMR. This is unlike in conventional planting. EMR focuses on facilitating natural regeneration and allowing mangrove to recover on their own once the right conditions are restored. So this means we prioritize to understand the site first, including the hydrology, elevations, ecological conditions, so before taking any interventions. This is the approach of ecological mangrove rehabilitations. We have 6 steps to implement when we try to implement the ecological mangrove rehabilitations. And this started from the preliminary and biophysical assessment to social economic analysis. So it's not only about the hydrology, it's not only about the ecology, but it's also actually the big part of it is about social and also community analysis. And then we have site selections, and then designing the ecological mangrove rehabilitation plans, and then implementations. And then we still have monitoring as well. So yeah, like the key principle here is that the restoration is not just the ecological, but it's also social. We actively involve community in the assessment, including the planning and also the decision making. And yeah, instead of planting trees everywhere, we focus on removing the barrier of the natural growths, such as restoring the water flow or improving the site conditions. And also this EMR approach is a very adaptive process. So we continuously learn and also adjust based on the result of the monitoring. And we have to improve based on the monitoring result. And yeah, like overall, this approach leads to a more sustainable and cost-effective and also long-term restoration outcomes. And also while focusing also in the community. So despite all the many restoration efforts, as I mentioned in the previous slide before, that globally around 90% of the mangrove rehabilitation fails. And one of the reason is the technical issues, mainly planting mangrove in the wrong locations. And then one major challenge is the land tenure and government complexity. In Indonesia, mangrove areas falls under at least three different ministries, forestry, marine, and also local government. So it's become more complex. And also, there are often lacks of technical understanding. This is particularly around hydrology and also ecological suitability, which is very critical in a successful restorations. And yeah, in many cases, restorations are mainly tree planting without addressing the underlying cause of degradations. And yeah, that's one like several major challenge in the mangrove rehabilitations. This is the case study from South Sulawesi in Indonesia. So a blue forest has several case study in South Sulawesi. So today we're going to be focus on two sites in Kuricadi and also in Tanah Keke Islands. Let's start with the Kuricadi, this restoration case in South Sulawesi. This area is focused on the hydrological restorations using the EMR approach. So if you see here in the pictures, this used to be an aquaculture area, so abandoned aquaculture, and then this design is we call it integrated mangrove and sustainable aquaculture. So we implement the mangrove rehabilitations, but also we set aside some areas to be used as a sustainable aquaculture. So we use the restored mangrove as the natural filters for the sustainable aquaculture. EMR process in Kuricadi. This is one of the planned restorations. As you can see here, there are like several areas need to be adjusted so the hydrology can naturally come into the areas so the mangrove can grow. And we use some heavy equipment as well to restore the hydrological sites. And we also implement the hydrology repair with the community. And yeah, so this area in Kuricadi was a large-scale pond development during the 80s. And uh, we started this process in 2014 to restore the area. So, well, before that, in 2011, Blue Forest has started to begin working with the local community, which includes men, women, and also youth to restore the mangrove, while also improving the community livelihood. And uh, we started to implement the EMR in 2014, and you can see the before and after pictures here from the degraded ponds in 2014 to sustainable mangrove aquaculture systems. This is the latest picture in 2025, and today the area integrates rehabilitation zones with the sustainable aquaculture. So with this case study, we want to show how the restorations and livelihood can still coexist. So the community they still can do the fish ponds, the sustainable fish pond, and also implement rehabilitations in the area. The next case study is Tanakeke Islands. Tanakeke is located in South Sulawesi. It's an island, like a small island. And historically, Tanakeke had around uh, 1,700 hectares of mangroves, but it has been declined until it's only left with 500 hectares in by 2011 due to the over exploitations and mainly for conversion to ponds and also charcoal productions from the mangrove timber. And starting in 2011, Blue Forest implemented the EMR approach across the 5 villages and working closely with the community. And over time, we implement the 6 steps of the EMR, and then in the next one, we can see the results of the rehabilitations. This is the EMR processes in Tanakeke. So we implemented the land ownership assessments. We implement a community participatory mapping with the community, and then we start to implement to plan the rehabilitation with the community. So we have a lot of discussion with the community, and also start to rehabilitate. The first one only covers like 31 hectares, and then uh, it grows over times. And we also implement several monitoring to evaluate the rehabilitation design and also implementations. And if needed, we will adjust the rehabilitation design in the next planting. And yeah, so this area, we implement ecological mangrove rehabilitation with the community. We did seed dispersal as well. So instead of planting, we disperse the seed of various mangrove species into the area. Yeah, so this is the before and after pictures of Tanakeke Island. So 2011 versus 2023. So this one we we successfully rehabilitate more than 500 hectares of mangrove, and also we involve so many community and also organizations. As I mentioned before, like mangrove falls under like very numerous agency and also ministry, and we have to engage with several organizations to help us restore the mangrove. But here, if you see the Kurichadi case study before, this area looks like it's not really dense, right? Like the 2023 rehabilitation result is still pretty, like scarce. Like the mangrove is not really dense here. This is before because the Tanakeke Island is an atoll type, so it has we call it overwash system. So characterized by high salinity, and very minimum freshwater intakes and very low organic materials and nutrients, and that's why the result of rehabilitation is not as dense as Kurichadi. And this condition costs the mangrove growth is very slow and not as high as the mangrove in the mainland area. So yeah, so this is different sites condition will have different results of the mangrove rehabilitations. This is one of the key takeaway of this case study presentation. So we want to show you that mangrove rehabilitations can strengthen the community resilience. So it's mangrove rehabilitation is not only about restoring ecosystems, it's also plays key roles in strengthening community resilience. Like the mangrove can provide coastal protections, reducing the wave energy and also protecting the community villages and farmlands and also infrastructure from erosions and from storm. And after the rehabilitations in Kurichadi, for example, the community now can implement agriculture behind their mangrove ecosystem. So this also creates opportunity for agriculture as community can safely, could cultivate the crops behind the restored mangrove areas. And also healthy mangroves for example, like in Kurichadi, can provide healthy fisheries as well. So the fishery can improve, and it the mangrove also serve as a nursery habitats for the fish and shrimps and the mud crabs, and also increase the catch fishery for the community. So it's not the community not only focus on the fish ponds anymore, and it's also increased the community food security. And also, in addition to that, mangrove restorations can opens up an alternative livelihoods. This includes seaweed farming, ecotourism, and also non-timber forest products. So we implemented several um, capacity buildings in the community that includes non-timber forest products development like mangrove honey and eco-prints products from the natural mangrove dye. And also, lastly, this benefits from the mangrove restorations can contribute to a stronger and more resilient community, and both not only ecologically but also economically. And yeah, and this is why the mangrove rehabilitation should be seen as a, like a holistic approach and linking the ecosystem and livelihood and also the community resilience. Yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to discuss more about our case study from Indonesia.
Thank you so much, Lely, for that incredibly insightful presentation. At this juncture, we shall now move forward to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So, in addition to Lely and I, we are joined by Dr. David Nadell. And for our first question, our participant is inquiring, how do you navigate through conflicting stakeholder interests in mangrove rehabilitation? And do you have any best practices to share?
Yeah, like conflicting interests. That's like a very common issues here because we have like a lot of stakeholders that are managing the forest, the mangroves, and also a lot of like community and also maybe private sector as well. And that's why like when we implement rehabilitations, there are a lot of like like socializations, discussions, focus FGD that we implemented like before we plan the restorations. And usually in Indonesia, so we have our um like the forest or the land in Indonesia is divided into like several ministry. So the first thing we do when we want to implement rehabilitations is we want to know that the land is located in which area. So for example, if it's located in a forest state, then we will need to discuss more with the Ministry of Forestry. And then if it's located in a marine fishery and marine agencies ministries, then we will need to discuss more with the fishery and marine agencies. And also if it's in a non forest area or alternate land, which is usually under the local government, and sometimes it's privately owned. Then we need to like discuss with the private sector, the government, or also the local government and also the community. So it depends on which land status their or rehabilitation is located, and then we gather the stakeholders from there, and usually that's uh, what we did, and we can't proceed to like the rehabilitation process if it's there is no agreement like between agencies or between the community. So it's always like that's still like the challenge, and um, usually like this kind of discussion cannot just like happens one time or two times, or just like probably like a month or 2 months. So it's like a on like a continuous process.
Perfect. David, would you kindly do the honors of asking the new question?
Yeah, thanks, Lily. You just highlighted kind of the negotiations between different stakeholders. I'm also, or one of our participants asked to get more information about the social process, and
Mhm.
particularly as it applies to kind of education and training. What skills need to be, given to the community that's involved? How is that done? What is the length of time this requires?
Okay, yeah. Um, as I mentioned before, this EMR process, or the mangrove rehabilitation, is the bigger part is the social aspect, and it's a very important approach in the EMR, and it's like a very strongly community centered. So we implement a lot of participatory role appraisal, or PRA, like before the project is implemented, and then from there we also have like a lot of discussion with the community. We have participatory mapping as well, and we learn from the community a lot, actually, like because they're the one who lives there longest. The restoration manager probably like were new to the area, but the community is the one who lives there, and they understand the history. So we collect informations about the history of the landscape, what species are present in their area, and how's the condition before. And that's also like help us um, uh, to see, okay, which area is historically has mangrove, and which area is not, it doesn't have it didn't have mangrove. So usually if it's like there's no mangrove before, we're not trying to like focus on that area. But in some cases also it's a site, what do you call it, like site specific. So um we can't have like this same methods in different sites, but that's what we usually do. And then usually we took like 6 months to like a year to like implement all the um, participatory mapping, the FGD with the community, and also trainings. So because EMR, we use a lot of efforts from the community, from the local people there. So we also want them to understand what is EMR. Usually people, familiar with mangrove plantings, but not really familiar with EMR, like why you need to like dig, like our mangrove areas, and then talking about hydrology and everything. So training is also like in the first stage of our planning, and then from there we make a plan, like, okay, we want to do this hydrology adjustment in this area, and then we this involves the community, and then so they will have a say in there. And from there we can discuss with the community as well, like how many people we can uh, like we can gather to help us to do this. And yeah, like also like shifting their mindset first. That's why we have trainings in the first stage.
Great, thanks, Lely. Back to you, Alan.
Mhm. I am combining multiple related questions here. What are
Yeah,
the
there are
most
a lot of
rec
cool questions.
what are the most recommended tools and models for understanding hydrology and water connectivity, as well as identifying mudflats to support
Yeah.
effective rehabilitation?
Yeah, like Blue Forest has a module to implement the ecological rehabilitations, mangrove rehabilitations. So in that modules and also like all the technical, like efforts, how to assess the mudflat area. So mudflat is usually located below mean sea level. So mangroves grows in the mean sea level, right? So if it's below mean sea level, usually it's like it will be inundated more, and it's not suitable for mangrove. And that's why in the first stage as well, we always have like an assessment of the hydrology. We measure the elevations, the surface elevations, and the substrate elevations, all that kind of measurements. And it's in a EMR model. Maybe we can share the link after this if everyone is interested. But it's in a Blue Forest website as well, and everyone can access that. It's publicly available.
Awesome. Thank you, Lely. David?
Yeah, thanks, Lely. Do you see this is a question from one of our participants, do you see similar levels of biodiversity in the rehabilitated mangroves as compared to natural mangroves? Um,
Yeah. So we did several biodiversity monitoring as well. We had a research in area where there's just aquaculture, and then the rehabilitations, and then the what do you call, like a natural intact mangrove. And um it has like a different biodiversity like populations, and also the diversity of species in terms of fauna and flora. Because like in aquaculture, of course, there's like a very little canopy and very little trees, so it's very low in the biodiversity. And in a restored area, it depends um on the landscape. Like the in some, so mangrove has like several types. Like there's the estuary, there is a like in islands, and it has different biodiversity types. And yeah, in in the first like 1 or 2 years after rehabilitation, it's still pretty open. So usually we already have like several biodiversity come in, like not come in, like it came back. Like usually we also interviewed the community that and they also mentioned, especially the fishery fauna, like mud crabs, and also shrimp. um, a lot of aquatic species increase significantly compared to the aquaculture. It's probably like depend on what year of the rehabilitations compared to like a very intact mangrove. Of course, it's going to be different. But in a lot of our sites, we found like a very big improvement, especially in the fishery or aquatic habitats, and also birds.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, another question here. How can we convince local communities that mangroves are important for protecting coastal areas and should not be converted into fish ponds? And you've
Yeah.
introduced the integrated mangrove sustainable aquaculture system. How
Mhm.
open are aquaculture farmers to this new system?
Yeah. So, uh, for community living in a coastal area, it's not hard to convince because in most cases they experience like flooding and like there's no mangrove, so they have no windbreaker. There are like a lot of like natural disaster that they experienced before. So in a coastal area where they already experienced that kind of a natural disaster, it's easier to convince the community. But the thing is, the community they're convinced that mangrove is important. Most of the time, they don't have the land of mangrove where we can rehabilitate, right? Because like in a lot of cases, especially in aquaculture landscape, it's privately owned or like privately owned, legally or illegally. So the hardest part is convincing the landowner, look, or the aquaculture ponds owner of the importance of mangrove, because usually it's like a economic driven. That's why they want to convert it to aquaculture. And in the case study, like in Tanah Keke, and also in Kurijadi, like the aquaculture has been non-productive because it has no natural nutrients whatsoever. So technically, it's easier. It's hard to convince that. So they put a lot of investment to like convert the area, right? So we have to like convince them that it's not like a loss for them if we like regrow mangrove there, and then we we adjust the hydrology, so what they've been putting money on that area will be will be a waste. So that's the hardest part. So we have to have like a very long negotiations and convince them that when we do the rehabilitations, it's not that we want to like owns the mangrove area. So we have to make sure that it's still their land, but with the restored area, they can get like the catch fisheries more, and then also the other community can fish in their area. So it provides like more social like more positive impacts like to the community in the area.
Thank you.
Okay. Lely, could you say something about blue carbon projects? Were any of these blue carbon projects? What is the status of blue carbon in Indonesia? Um, some
Yeah.
background.
So yeah, blue carbon has been like a very sexy topics right now, I think around the world, and especially in Indonesia. Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Forestry, Fishery and Marine Affairs, and also like Ministry of coordinating Ministry of Food Affairs as well. Like they all work in developing the blue carbon roadmaps and policy, etc. So there are a lot of attentions about blue carbon, and in a positive sides, it can be another additional benefits for the landowner or for the community. They still can get some benefits from the carbon projects, and also they can still generating incomes from like non-timber forest products or from the fisheries, and try not to like cut the mangrove or convert the mangroves. But currently we're still on hold on that. So but we're in a right track, I would say, because the government is progressing in developing the registry for the carbons and the policy, and a lot of discussions about the blue carbons. And yeah, but these two area we haven't done any blue carbon projects, because yeah, there are like several requirements like uh land tenure and etc. So and also we need to like got an FPIC from free parent informed consent from the community and the landowner, for example. So in those two areas we haven't or we haven't had any plan to do carbon projects there. But yeah, like a lot of people are interested on that. Yeah, but we'll see what's the policy is evolving in Indonesia on the blue carbons.
Thanks.
Alrighty. So we have multiple participants asking about urban mangroves. Do you have any experience in restoring or rehabilitating urban mangroves, and how might EMR be implemented in those contexts?
Yeah, so Blue Forest-ELTI actually works also in East Kalimantan, where we collaborated with Mangrove Center, Mr. Agus Bay there. So he's been like restoring his area. It's located in pretty close to Balikpapan, so it was a very degraded mangroves. They got flooded every year, and like he. Uh, his initiative is to like restore the area. We can't say it's a full EMR, but it's like a semi, like natural assisted rehabilitations. And now the mangrove is really great. They have a very good ecotourism programs there. The community now they can be like the tour guide and the boat in a driver. So it provide a lot of community livelihood in the area. So in the urban mangrove areas, usually ecotourism is like one of the uh, like the first step to go in rehabilitation or protecting the mangrove.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question from one of our participants. Have you encountered challenges with community members or visitors not respecting the restored mangrove area? For example, accessing restricted zones or using the site in unintended ways?
Um, well, uh, like visitors, we don't really like have like a restricted
I,
zones
I would say
and
visitors or, kind of some backsliding in the sense of people changing their
oh
minds
yeah,
or,
yeah. In Tanah Keke Island, actually, we have a case where during the COVID-19 or so we don't have a program during that time, right? Like there are a lot of fundings closed, and um, when we go back like a year or 2 years after COVID-19, some of our areas there, some of not our, some of the areas that were rehabilitated was reconverted into aquaculture because like during COVID, the community needs livelihood, and they also have so in Tanah Keke it's not only aquaculture, they also use it for charcoal productions. So yeah, like the community, the landowner also like reconverted the area. So uh all the efforts to rehabilitate, it's kind of sad to see. It's like it's it's pretty open again, but now we're thankfully we're back in Tanah Keke with another programs, and we're trying to like recover from that. But uh, the good point or the positive side is that the community now can see that the rehabilitations was successful, and then now when they converted, it's like the nutrients is coming back and they can use the timber again. But well, that's kind of illegal because like in Indonesia we can't harvest mangrove timber. But yeah, like we're going to we're in a process to like uh rehabilitates the area again.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Unfortunately, that is all we have for today's webinar. We have so many amazing questions, and
Yeah.
if our participants have any pressing questions, please send your inquiries to our team, and we'll make sure to send them to Lely and then give the answers to you. And again, thank you so much for our amazing speaker. And thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. But before everyone leaves, we would like to kindly announce again that the registration for our course on mangrove ecology, blue carbon, and restoration is already up. Please register before our deadline on May the 1st. And for more information, please scan the QR code on the slide or go to the link shown. We are also excited to announce an additional opportunity for everyone, which is the Tropical Forest Landscapes Online Certificate Program. This program explores diverse perspectives on managing tropical landscapes through a dynamic online experience. The program is designed for postgraduate learners with a professional or intellectual interest in tropical forest landscapes, with a focus on translating theory into action. The program has a rolling admission all through until May 1st. And for more information, please scan the QR code or go to the link shown in the slide. And you can also learn more about our upcoming events by visiting our website at lt.yale.edu and by joining our mailing list. And also, please remember that this session has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. And you can visit our channel at youtube.com/@YaleLT to watch some of our previous webinar series as well. And this brings us to the end of our webinar. Please join me again in thanking our amazing speaker, Lely Puspitasari, and thank you to all of you. To learn more about LT and other courses and certificate programs, please go to these links. And thank you so much, everyone. Take care.